Okay.
I'm rolling. You go whenever.
We're rolling. All right, Devon Larratt.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you so much for being in this video. My trip is finally coming to an end. Very sad, but very happy of this entire weekend. And I'd just like to ask you a few questions very quickly. We don't have much time, but first question: where is this sport going? What will it look like in 10 years?
10 years. Well, I think we're going to continue to see a lot of growth. In 1, 2, maybe certainly 4 places. For one, I think one of the really cool things that's going to happen over that amount of time is that I do believe that it'll find its way into school sports.
Across Canada and United States?
I think it'll be a global thing. When we talk about 10 years, I think in Canada, I am optimistic that within 5 years, the school system will be, established. I think so.
Are we talking clubs? Are we talking classes?
I'm talking yearly national championships.
Wow.
That's what I think. I think that
at all levels.
High school.
High school level. Yeah.
I think high school. Yeah. I don't know how far it'll go, but I'm optimistic when I say that. I think if we go very well, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, I think we should have a solid national annual championships in the high school system. And I think that'll continue around the world.
Yeah.
I think so. As soon as one country starts doing it more, especially not even one country, but like a country like Canada. I mean, USA is going to see that. Maybe they'll start, I think that the club scene is just going to continue to really, really grow. I think that, the amount of clubs, the size of the clubs, the location of the clubs is going to continue to grow. We've gone, during my career, arm wrestling clubs have been in pubs.
Yeah, everywhere.
I won't be surprised if we move more into gyms, and I won't be surprised if there's just way more of them, and maybe in some places a little bit more formal setting, but even just the grassroots, there'll just be more of it. I think that the high level sport will also continue to grow and become more organized, mostly with the league size will be very established in 5 to 10 years. So, right now we have East versus West with in the vicinity of 100,000 followers. In 5 or 10 years, I think that East versus West potentially could have 5 million followers. It'll be a very substantial, people will not just be following, I like this athlete, I like this athlete, I like this athlete, and they compete at East versus West. I think that, when the league is running for this amount of time, and people will just be loving arm wrestling. They'll be loving arm wrestling, be like, it's the next arm wrestling event, and all of the athletes that compete there will just be immediately elevated to a much higher level because the league is going to be the center of the hub. You know what I mean?
So you say exponential growth in the numbers of fans.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what we're seeing. And the thing is I think what happens is people are now really starting to fall in love with the sport. We have fans now. There's arm wrestling fans, and this isn't new now, but for me, who's been arm wrestling, 30 years, it's still a relatively new thing. I mean, if you go back 15 years, there were no arm wrestling fans, really. There was friends of yours. There was, friends of yours, family members.
Yeah. Those were your fans, and now you have random people you've never met who
now
consume vast amounts of knowledge.
And I think that's just going to continue to increase, and because of that, the leagues are just going to continue to grow, and then at that point, when the leagues have north of 1 million followers across, then as soon as athletes get plugged in, it's their growth is just they're gonna become superstars very quickly.
So a lot more money is gonna be poured.
More money, more sponsors, more. But the thing is everything has to work from a business perspective. People get excited about, arm wrestling, and you have to understand, there's levels to it. Athletes love arm wrestling, hardcore fans love arm wrestling. But to make arm wrestling really, really grow, you need fans. You need people who love it, love to watch it. And I think that's over the next 5-10 years, that's going to become.
So you talk about that end goal, but I guess my next question would be, are there anything about the current state of the sport that you believe need to change in order to see that growth that you're talking about? Say with the reffing or with the leagues or with just anything. Is there something that needs to change?
Yeah, there will be things that continue to evolve. And I think that, we have arm wrestling now, and we will throw out like a testing kind of thing here, a testing kind of thing.
Yeah.
If something bites and gets light, then it'll continue to get shone on. I think that when you look at it from a very step back level, as we continue to grow, there will be a few like really key pieces to our really, really continued expansion as a sport.
Yeah.
Potentially things like testing.
Yeah.
Right now, testing is difficult, I'd say.
Yeah.
But once you reach a certain level of fan participation and involvement, where it starts to make sense financially, and then as soon as you have that, you have the ability to draw in more mainstream sponsors. When you have more mainstream sponsors, you gain another level. You can add, right now we have betting on ArmBet, but betting will be on, larger platforms.
Yeah.
And that's betting's a big part of sports too.
Yeah. And it's tough to do in arm wrestling. Very tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very, very tough.
To accurately predict matches with our sport, I think, is one of the most interesting things because...
Super tough.
Yeah.
Getting on major network. Most of our stuff is based around YouTube and social media, which is fine, but it'll be even better when we are connected to major networks.
Yeah.
That are showing arm wrestling on the regular, be it highlights, be it leagues. I think also it's not huge for me. I don't think it's really key, but if WAF continues to push and get Olympic recognition, this will do wonders for our sport as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, we have a few things. Like the WAF is pushing their dream. Pro arm wrestling's pushing their dream. You got just regular dudes pushing their thing. Okay, so that's like grassroots level, amateur level, professional level, and one success feeds into another. They all come up together. Yeah.
What do you think has been the highest and the lowest point in your career?
Highest point I'd say is right now. I think right now is probably the highest point for me. Like when you look at, my reach, my ability on the table. Right now is that it's hard to argue that this isn't for me the best time in arm wrestling. Yeah. Low points for me. I'll tell you a really funny story. It's not a low point, but it's just an example of where the sport is. Okay, so right now, I don't have a problem with, if I want a sponsor, I can get a sponsor. If I want something, if I ask for it, I can probably get it.
Yeah.
It's 2008. I beat Jombers Inc. I'm recognized as number one in the world. Okay, like I'm recognized like number one in the world. Devon Larratt, right hand, super heavyweight.
Yeah.
And I'm like calling people up, looking for sponsors, and nobody wants
Really?
to. Nobody cares. Nobody, nothing. They're like, yeah, we got a lawn dart match coming up, and we're thinking about covering these guys. So
Just because they didn't care about arm wrestling.
nobody cared about arm wrestling at all. There was nothing. Like you could be the world champ and call up sponsors and be like, yeah.
So that's part of the struggle that people don't realize about back in the days, right?
There was nothing. Yeah, so like, and before that, people talk about money in arm wrestling, and I remember if you won a tournament and you had your gas money paid for, and you had enough to, buy some food, it was like, wow, this is so cool. I remember like the biggest tournament of the year, you could win like $500, and you felt guilty because you knew that the promoter was losing money.
But you discovered that super matches were more appealing, right?
Yeah, super matches were more appealing, but in the beginning they weren't. Nobody was making money. Nobody was making money in the beginning. Nobody.
So are you saying that before it was losing money, are we at break even? Are we past break even? Is the sport now have so much traction that we're gaining?
Yeah, we're gaining now. I believe, seeing what I'm seeing, we are in a position now. It's fragile, okay?
Yeah.
But it's like we are that flower that's opening up. I think that everything is looking very positive, and now there is a period of growth, and that's why you see so much, because everybody's seeing that it can be done.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of jumping on board and pushing. Now I'll say that it's still difficult. Like you have to work hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be done. If you work hard and you love arm wrestling, you can find a way to make it work.
Especially now, it's a lot easier than what it was, right? Yeah.
Unbelievably easier.
What does it mean for you to see your kids? I've just talked to them for breakfast,
Yeah.
Auden and Milo, being into the sport that you are.
Makes it really easy for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, because, I'm just holding the camera right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
I think it's very important in life to follow your passion. I think it's the most important thing. I think if you're not in love with what you're doing, there's going to be a lot of friction. Okay, like every day you're going to wake up and you're going to be, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. I think that's a really horrible way to live. Really bad. And to some degree, you're going to always have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, like in order to succeed, it's never probably always going to be, this is exactly all the things I want to do. I mean, I have faith that you do get there eventually where everything is exactly what you want to do, that level of freedom. But Jodi and I were kind of careful not to kind of force the kids into anything.
Yeah.
Auden and Milo and Habry, they just have kind of watched Jodi and I live for the most part. If ever they showed interest or wanted, and they had been going to tournaments since they were babies. Because we go to tournament, hey, do you want to enter? Yeah, let's do it. Or, oh, there's a thing in 2 weeks.
So it's been around, but never
Yeah, and just kind of fate, and me getting Auden hurt, and the kind of in a way kind of pulled him into the world a little bit, when he was only training his right arm and saw good results, and I don't know many things. I don't. I know arm wrestling really well, so it's easy for me to guide Auden, Milo, in this world. It's very easy for me because that's I really know it. So it's great for me because I get to pass on all the knowledge that I have.
And they arguably have one of, if not the best teachers. Look.
Teaching is an interesting thing, because I think it's very important to know that as much as I'm a teacher, I remain a student. I am still a student, even at this point in my career. I'm very convicted. I always think that I know, but I can go back 2 years and be like, yeah, that guy was wrong. Go back 2 years, yeah, that guy was wrong.
So you yourself are in the process of improving and learning.
So what Auden and I have done, Milo and I have just started kind of working together.
Yeah.
Milo is kind of late to the party a little bit, even though, we've all been arm wrestling a long time. It's the level of how much you put into it. And now Auden and I are basically at that same level. I tell everybody, Auden is training as hard as I am. Sometimes I even think he trains harder than me. And the thing is we speak a lot about our theories. Okay, so and we exchange information, we exchange ideas, we speak about arm wrestling, and we have collectively come to a conclusion. I'm not telling really Auden to do anything. I'm arguing my case. I'm arguing what I believe the sport is, what it's about, and I try and convince him of my argument. And there's been times when he's actually convinced me of his. And so we are now learning together, because even though I know a lot and I've been around a lot, Auden has caught up very quickly. There's still a lot that he has to learn about, I'd say, the finer points of competitive arm wrestling, but he's doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And he's already in a place now where, you know, data exchange, we can speak, and it goes back and forth. So yeah, it's great, and that's fun, right? Like it's good to be able to, you know, be in the same house as somebody who's kind of
got the same passion, same level of commitment.
Yeah, so good times.
Yeah, he's doing all right. I give him
real good, real good.
How do you train before a match? I mean, you have a match coming up with Georgie.
Yeah.
You're somebody that talks a lot about visualization. Is that something you're constantly doing? Like, how do you train?
Sure. So you're talking about the mental part of match preparation?
Mostly mental, but also physical. Like, obviously, you watch your opponents. I assume you change your training for them, or no?
You know, it's a combination of art and science.
Right.
Okay, so like there are certain patterns that I'm always trying to move towards, but life is always going to mess you around. Okay, and that's the real part where art comes in, and adaptability and flexibility, because there's always going to be things that mess up you, you know, living in a cave, having your food prepared, doing this, no distractions. Okay, that's not real. Okay, so you have to stay very flexible with your mind. There's base patterns that I always try and come to. And the base pattern is, so here's far away, here's the event. Typically what I will do is I will build volume, okay? I will build a massive amount of volume, okay? I do a lot of work. And
don't break yourself down pretty much.
I don't want to break myself down, but I want to get my body capable of doing a lot of work and become very durable and break into a pattern where, you know, and I want to get to a place during this macro cycle, you know, you want to call it, where I'm pushing myself to new levels. This is really my goal. And I mean, I've trained so much and over so many years that I've pretty much got it pretty dialed in. I'm really training my top end strength. Top end strength. This is what it's about to me. There's basically six motions, and 2 that I really, really, really care about, and then like 4 that I also care about. But I basically train these motions over and over and over and over. I arm wrestle, I do rehab. Yeah. And I never fail. I never fail. And during this, you know, long building process, progressively overloading my body. Yeah. I try and get to new levels of strength, and then it's a tapering process where, you know, I focus more on my health. And from the mental side of it, it's very important to stay motivated. So you have to respect your opponent. It's so important. You have to realize that you are in the fight of your life. It's so important for you to recognize the value of work and the value of outworking your opponent. Okay? Like, this is where the fight is won and lost. It's not won and lost on the day. It's won and lost in this big cycle before the match. And whoever works harder is gonna have the more likelihood of winning. So you wanna look at your opponent, you wanna outwork him. So the more you can change your life in a way that you are capable of putting in more hours, intelligent hours, accurate hours, that's when you're gonna win. You can't get there without respect of your opponent. Yeah. You have to realize that this guy is working. He's a monster. If you take him lightly, he's gonna make you look like a fool. You have to value the victory to a point where you almost fear him, to a point where you actually almost believe that he will defeat you. You know, this is a fine line that you kind of want to be careful of. You want to fear them. You want to think that they can beat you. This is ideal. You want to be up against the fence at times. But you can't let that really sink into you too deeply. Once you kind of get to a point where you actually think he's going to beat you, you want to focus only on him losing.
Okay, so then you switch it around.
Yeah, you switch, and then you only see them losing. Visualize all the time. People talk about visualization in arm wrestling. I've heard a lot of people talk about visualization, like positive visualization. I just think that's kind of bullshit. I think that what's important is just constant visualization of the entire scenario, and having a certain outlook while you're doing it. So, like, I'm going to visualize my match with Georgie. I don't always see myself winning. I always see myself fighting and struggling and trying to overcome. In any scenario, any position, I continue to fight and struggle. Even if he's got me down 2 and I'm up against the fence, like, even if I lose, I never stop fighting. And that way, I try and see everything that can happen, every single thing that can happen, so that when it happens, I've already seen it, I've already been there. I don't need to think about what happens next because I've already seen it. And that way, when I actually come to him on the day, and as soon as he makes that one mistake that I've seen, I'm like, okay, I already know what happens here, you fucking lose.
Yeah.
You know, so I can become very confident very quickly when my opponent starts to make errors.
Yeah. And you talk a little bit about, you mentioned the fight of your life.
Yes.
And do you think that's something that you take from your time in the SF?
I think that that really helped me a lot from a mental perspective. You know, from a term of, I'd call it stress threshold. There's nothing. I don't want to say that. It makes me sound like an elitist. And I fully recognize that there's all sorts of crazy things you can do with your life.
Yeah.
But from a military perspective, like if you're a military guy and you're an SF guy, like you're going to be put in situations that are super stressful. And, you know, if you do enough of those, you get kind of used to that. So I'll tell you, arm wrestling's a step down. There's almost nothing in it from an arm wrestling perspective that could possibly be as stressful as, you know, getting on a helicopter, going in at night, trying to whack people. Like, it's nothing. No. Yeah. So I think that helped me. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of lessons that I got there in terms of, you know, psychological resilience and
persistence prevails.
Mission focus, you know, stuff like that.
Right up there.
For sure helped me. Yeah.
Okay, so last.
You know, I'll tell you one last thing because it's your coach. Yeah, I love Alan Fisher.
Right.
Big fan of Alan Fisher. And everybody has gems, okay? Everybody who's a champion, you know, they've got something. There's something. Yeah. Alan Fisher and I talk every once in a while. He called me up. I think it was before Jerry Cataract. This was a big match. Right. He's like, Darren, he's like, for the next 3 days, I want you to only see positive things, only see your victory. That's all you think about. I'm like, Alan, that's a long time, man. Yeah. That is a long time to be positive. He's like, like 2 days. I'm like, Alan, 2 days is a long time. He's like, 1 day, Devon, 1 day. And I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, but that last little bit is very important. Like that last little bit.
So that switch 1 day before.
Yes, it's even more, right? So the first piece, respect, you know, motivation to fuel yourself in your training. The next, you start to see that victory. And then at the end, there's like that final transformation where you don't even consider negative outcomes. It's like everything is winning. Are
you talking like 40 minutes before the match?
No, try and do it for a day.
Okay.
Yeah, try and do it. Look, and everybody's different. I can't. I'm kind of very balanced in my outlook of things. If I try and shift things too much, I'm like, Devon, you're lying to yourself. It's not going to be like that. I can lie to myself for about 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, and that's good. And then and you have to lust for the fight. You have.
He totally just spilled that.
It's okay.
You got to lust for the fight. You got to remember your roots. You got to remember why you're there. Like you got to remember that you love to fight. You got to remember that, you know, you would be doing this for money, no money. You'd be doing it barefoot. This is your heaven. This is your paradise. This is your time to live. This is your time to express yourself. This is the time when you show the world your work.
So it's the why.
That's right. Right there. This is your why. Yeah. You start walking towards that table and you are yourself. You get to be you. You get to express yourself in the most combative way that you can in the sport. It's a beautiful freedom. Yeah.
Okay, last final question. How do you feel about Georgie?
So good. Yeah, he's gonna be a great opponent. You know, it's going to be very good. He's very strong. I do believe that I'm going to be on my back foot. I really do. I think I'll be on my back foot for certainly round 1. I think round 1 is going to be probably one of the hardest rounds of my life if he doesn't pin me quickly. I think that, you know, he's just, I mean, he's got such tremendous base hand control.
Right.
His cup and his pronation and his hammer. It's going to be very hard. Look, if you see that match stop middle or my side, he's done. Yeah. He's done. I don't anticipate this. I anticipate it going B-side his way and it being really, really close and really on the wire. And you know, he's a very strong guy. I do believe he's probably the best top roller in the division, minus LeVon when he gets healthy. We're gonna find out. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a great match, and I think it's gonna be a good war. But you know, if you ask me, you know, 24 hours before the match, I'm gonna absolutely slaughter him. I'm gonna kill the guy. Yeah. I am gonna beat him. Yeah. I'll tell you now. I do believe I'm gonna beat him. Whether it's 6-0, whether it's 4-2, whether it's 4-3. 4-3 would be great.
So as soon as it stops.
As soon as it stops, it starts to go my direction. Doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah.
If the match is stopped and it's, you know, 10 or 15 seconds, it's probably over.
Yeah.
But you know, he's for sure got a little bit of time there.
Yeah.
Strong guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see it. You have your family support. You have my support. You have a lot of people's support. Thank you so much for this, Devon.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah. And thank you for doing this podcast. I appreciate it.
Anytime, buddy.
Talk to you guys soon.